Cotton.
General Alden, you've talked about the need to buy new aircraft to replace our oldest fighters. Why is that? Under the current fighter production plans, we're going to be flying some of our oldest aircraft into the 2040s. Would purchasing more kinds of new fighters now both increase deterrence and improve our ability to defend the homeland while projecting power abroad in the near term?
Yeah, Senator, I think that's a great point, and having not only the right capacity but the capability for those to make sure that we have the right mix of the high end to be able to dominate and be relevant in an Indo-Pacific fight, as well as other fighters that may not need to be as sophisticated as our sort of our fifth generation, sixth generation, so to build out the whole capacity of the Air Force.
Will the CCA Increment 1 be able to replace manned fighters like the Strike Eagle and F-16?
Senator Cotton, we're on the sort of the nascent part of the collaborative combat aircraft, but my assessment as of right now, it will not replace that. It will be a great augmentation, and its threshold is to be able to work with the F-35 and the F-22 even before the F-47 gets fielded. So it will help us deliver more combat capability at a better cost point, but as far as replacing the manned fighters, that remains to be seen. What we have built into Increment 1, my assessment right now is that would not be a good one-for-one replacement, but it does augment.
I did not think so, and given that the President's made the decision to move forward with the F-47 as a manned fighter, if it can't be replaced by autonomous aircraft, you wouldn't think it could do so for the 16 or the Strike Eagle either. Focusing on just the next decade then, our current acquisition options are pretty limited. We've got just a couple airframes right now going. Would you be able to use newly built U.S. configured Block 80 F-16s to strengthen our strike fighter fleet if Congress can find additional funds for such an effort?
Senator Cotton, to give you a good advice on that, I'd really have to look at what the Defense Industrial Base can do on that, because my sense is that the current Block 70 is really eating up a lot of the production line and the production capacity in all the FMS sales. Looking at what that would be to take that export variant and adapt it to a Block 80 and the time it would take and where that would fall in the production line, I'd have to get back with you with more details to see if that would be an advisable situation.
Well, I'm glad you raised the FMS issue with the Block 70. For the quickest fielding timeline, would you be able to use modern Block 70s that are being made for our allies to meet critical needs if that option were available?
I'd have to take that one for the record, because I don't want to give you a yes or no, because specifically understanding what the export variant can and can't do and any sort of adjustments we would have to make it more easily integratable with our U.S. Built fighters. So I would need to see what the integration opportunities and costs would be before I could give you a good answer on that. But if I could take that for the record and give you a bit more detailed answer.
I would like, more details
Yes, sir.
back to the committee on that, because getting to your first point, it's not just about the most highly capable fighters, the 22s, the 35s, and ultimately the 47s, but about the capacity, just the sheer number we have. And there are pretty significant shortfalls over the next decade, isn't that right?
Well, as we continue to keep the older aircraft, they do become more and more expensive to maintain. And as we mentioned before, the mission capable rate, it's not what we'd like it to be. It's again, the average F-16 is it was really the average F-16 that we have right now was built right about the time the Cold War ended. So even those F-16s are getting pretty old.
Okay. Finally, beyond the fighter aircraft, you've said the country needs more Air Force. Could you elaborate specifically on what you mean in practical terms and what specifically Congress can do to best support the country getting more Air Force?
Thank you, Senator, and I'll go very quickly. I think when we look at all of the things that we'll discuss here today, I would love to have a more rapidly modernized and capable air refueling force, because it's about range in the Pacific, and so having survivable tanking to be able to do that. More Air Force, so as we do our operations in the Indo-Pacific in agile combat employment to ensure base resiliency, base survivability, so some more air-based air defense, to have more capabilities not only in the platforms, but in the munitions. Our munitions portfolio would need to increase. So there are so many things. And oh, by the way, I haven't even talked about the nuclear, which we cannot take our eyes off the ball on that, and as well as what it's going to take for defending the threats to the homeland. So all of those things, when you stack them up, and we try and prioritize with the limited budgets. There are many unhappy folks here that we don't have all that we would like to have. And so I think it's not only just more capacity, but also putting more lethality into that capacity.
Thank you.